Hi guys, hope you guys are having a great day. Today's video is about a special air plant from the collection. It's generally known as the king of air plants, and you can guess how special this plant could be to get such a common name. So I'm talking about Tillandsia xerographica. You can see how big it is. You know, generally air plants tend to be very small and timid, but this is kind of a big one, and it's a special plant. So stay tuned for more details regarding this gorgeous plant. So, Tillandsia xerographica, just like any other Tillandsia or air plant, belongs to the Bromeliad family or Bromeliaceae. It is native to parts of southern Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. So, by judging from its native habitat, they are from a semi arid area and can live with very less water because those places are very dry throughout the year. The main source of water for them in their natural habitat is morning mist, and this gives you an idea of how you can care for these in the collection. You should not be watering them every day. So usually when you think about an air plant, it's a very timid and small plant. It never gets to a size like this. This is actually a small xerographica for you. Actually they get this big and the flowering is happening much later in their lifetime. So this is actually not a fully grown xerographica. Mine actually got some kind of stress and I was growing it in full sun, so it flowered. But usually you get a very big plant. It gets bigger than this. So, xerographica is a very slow growing variety. Already air plants are slow growing, but this is actually again more slow growing. If you give them the ideal conditions from seed, it takes almost 25 years to reach adulthood and flower in nature. So you can understand how slow they are. Usually you get a properly grown, almost near maturity sized plants from shop. You don't have to go through the hurdle of growing them from seeds, but that's how long it takes for a xerographica to reach maturity. So guys, now we'll talk about how much sun you should give these plants. They are from arid parts and they experience a lot of sunlight during the year. So if you are planning to keep this species in your collection, find the sunniest spot in your garden. The more sun you give the plant, the less fuss it will give you. It will be happy, it will grow properly. Otherwise, you can experience stunted growth. Already they are very slow. So if you keep them in the shade, they'll be even more slower. So better to keep them in really good sunlight. One more thing you have to check for your air plant is that if they have a broad leaf. For instance, a xerographica has very broad leaves. This shows that the plant expects a lot of sun. If it has very thin leaves, that means they can take more shade and also they are not expecting a lot of sunlight. So water. Again, any plant you keep in your collection, you should know how much water that plant requires. This particular plant is extremely drought tolerant, so that means you should not carelessly water your plant. If you are from a colder region, you can water them once in 2 weeks, or maybe in the colder months once in a month. But if you are from a tropical constant climate, you can water them every 3 days given they are in full sun. And also you can see that the plant has a lot of cavity and small areas that they can collect water in. This adaptation is not very good for them in a tropical climate. So what you can do is whenever you water your plant with a hose, or even if you dunk your plant entirely in water, they'll collect a lot of water in those cavities and that can lead to rot. So whatever you do, whenever you water your plants, just completely tilt it for some time so that all that excess water will drip off, and then only you replace them into the place they were displayed on. So this avoids again infections due to watering. Whenever you decide to water your plant according to your climatic condition, make sure to water it thoroughly and to get every part of the plant totally moist. Once watered, a plant that is arranged in an upright position will collect a lot of water in between the leaves. This adaptation conserves what little water they get in nature, but in cultivation, this can lead to fungal rot or infections. So, once you water your plant, make sure to dunk out all that extra water. Another factor we have to discuss about is the silver color of your plant. Most air plants will appear silver when they are thirsty. That means they are expecting water. This is due to all the trichome like scale structures that close up on the leaf and give it that silvery appearance. But when the plant is hydrated or watered, it turns green. This is because all those trichomes open up and expose the chlorophyll or the green cells inside, giving the plant an overall greener appearance. So right now my plant looks silvery. This is a good indicator that it is expecting water. Also, if you look at the leaf, if your plant is dehydrated, the leaves will curl up and become more curly and wrinkly, and that also indicates that the plant needs water. Right now my plant comparatively is having a straight leaf. This is an indicator that, or this is an indicator, it's like it's showing that the plant is well watered or well kept. If you are not giving much water to the plant, it will look much more wrinkled and curled. Fertilizing your air plant, another important factor. I would not suggest that if you are a novice, but if you are an experienced grower, you can fertilize your air plants. I generally use orchid feed, which is really mild. It's not a strong fertilizer. So when your plant is in a growing stage, give them nitrogen rich growing fertilizers in a foliar feed method. You can take the fertilizer and dilute it so much more than what the company suggests, and then you can use it on your air plants. This will give some boost to their growing, like the speed of their growth. Otherwise, if you are not sure about it, I would suggest just watering your plant is more than enough. Don't fertilize it if you are not sure about it. So friends, if you are enjoying my content, do subscribe to the channel. Press the bell notification button for future updates from the channel. Share this video to your like-minded friends, and also comment down below if you have any extra queries regarding this plant. So now we'll talk about flowering. So beautiful. It's like one of the biggest flower I have ever gotten from, not a flower, inflorescence that I've gotten from an air plant. You can see that this is actually just the showy bracts, just like most air plants do. This is the stem, which is my kind of orange saffrony color, and all these green things are the bracts. And if you look closely, I'll show you a close-up video. This violet portion, that is actually the flower. So here you can see one flower is already like done. See, it flowered yesterday and within one day it just perishes. But the entire showy bract will last for months. But these small violet flowers, they last only for 1 or 2 days. They'll fertilize and they might set seeds or not, but then they'll perish within a day. The most rewarding part of growing air plants in any collection is not how beautiful the flowers are. Actually, they are not that beautiful, but the whole drama that the plant puts out or displays during flowering season is what attracts most gardeners towards these plants. Also, the inflorescence lasts for a long time. So while we are discussing about air plants, and this is an air plant, they don't need medium. You can literally just hang them in a string and grow them. You don't need a pot. You don't need any sort of support to grow your air plant. But you can see that the plant is producing roots. See, this is actually not roots. It's just something they produce to anchor themselves to a place, just like orchids do. So your options are to just simply hang your plant with a string or a fishing wire and just literally grow them like an air plant. But you can also mount these portions to a piece of wood, and that would actually eventually attach the plant to that piece of wood and keep your plant anchored. So guys, here you can see a close-up of those roots I was talking about. They're very fibery and not at all soft. It's just there for anchoring the plant to a surface that it's attached to. So in instance, for in nature they are seen attached to parts of bark or trees or shrubs, but in cultivation you can just mount them to a piece of cork bark, or you can just take a PVC pipe, wrap it with some coir, and you can directly attach it to the coir also. Here behind me you can see most of my air plants are just kept on a twig, and such roots will attach the plant to that twig. So that's the only purpose for these roots. They do not absorb water or any fertilizers you give the plant. Another factor to keep in mind is, since this particular plant hates to get water in between the leaves and get stagnant water there, it's always advised to put your air plant in such a position when you mount them. If you are planning to mount your air plant, try to put them in a crevice of a wood and in such a position so that whenever you water the plant, extra water will drip off. But in that case, there is a chance for the growing tip to grow tilted and not so beautiful. So if you want to retain this beautiful rosetted shape, you have to grow them like this, and whenever you water you have to manually take it, dunk out the water and replace it back where it was. So in that way you can retain the beautiful shape of your xerographica. But if you cannot do that on a daily basis, I recommend you to grow them like this or like this, mounted. I'm talking about while you mount it to a piece of wood. Okay, so that's a good tip I could give about xerographica, since they are very fussy about water.
Since they are slow to grow, they tend to be on the costlier side when you go for a purchase, but I ensure you it's worth every penny you spend.
That's all I can say about this beautiful air plant. I hope you guys found the video entertaining and useful. I'll be back with a new video next week. Until then, this is Nirmal signing off.
Thanks guys for sticking to the end of the video. Hope you guys found the content to be entertaining and useful. Hope you will check out other videos from the channel and do subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your like-minded friends.